Stocks trade ranged after the U.S. federal court scraps Liberation Day tariffs, but the Trump administration files an appeal. IT and metals notched some gains, while energy and auto drag. SEBI bars IndusInd Bank ex-CEO Sumant Katpalia, ex-Deputy CEO Arun, as well as Anil Rao, a member of the executive committee, and two others for insider trading. The naming of Anil Rao is a blow for the bank's current management structure. Max Life Insurance's MD Prashant Tripathi will retire early in September, and the sudden exit is seen as a near-term setback for the life insurer that recently came into the Axis fold. A U.S. court scraps tariff imposed by Trump under the International Emergency Economic Power Act, calling its use unjustified. Even as Trump administration files an appeal, experts point to other sections under the tariffs and can be imposed, keeping the uncertainty alive. Elon Musk announces the end of his term as a special government employee, leading Doge. This comes soon after the criticism of Trump's Big Beautiful Bill and follows demand on his time from Tesla's investors. Hello, good afternoon. You've tuned into Business Lunch, coming live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I'm Vinny Motiwala. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, slight bit of a recovery that we're seeing coming in the markets from the day's lowest point. We're seeing it flip-flopping between the red and the green is what the Nifty is doing. Look at it right now. It's come back to the green side. Is it going to sustain and go on and move forward? Is something to watch out for. Today is obviously the monthly expiry, so that is what we'll keep an eye out on. But as of now, the Nifty is at 24,760 levels, approximately around that mark. Broader end of the market, that continues to do well. The outperformance is continuing even today. So the smaller end of the market, the small cap, that specifically is doing very well, and mid cap also very good recovery from the day's lowest point, up 0.2%, small cap up 0.5% in the trading session as well. Let's look at the bank Nifty. What is that doing? Because that is also under pressure, and that is causing some bit of a pressure on the overall market as well. So bank Nifty tried to make some bit of a recovery as of now from the day's lowest point, but still holding on to cuts of 0.3%. So that's how the market setup is looking like. We're seeing a lot of move coming in on the broader end of the market due to their earnings as well, and that's what, this is the last leg of the earning, so will be interesting to see where we are headed. But the most important thing that came out today in terms of the day was RBI's annual report that shows that central bank bought 57.5 tons of fresh gold last year, increasing its gold hoard by 78% to 879.58 tons. Fraud cases have fallen, but the value of money involved on the frauds have risen. Lata is joining in with us to give us some of these interesting takeaways that have come in from the RBI's annual report. Lata, over to you.
Okay, well, gold is always something we watch out for from the annual report. How much gold has the RBI bought? Its total value of gold that it holds has risen by 57.7% to 4.3 trillion rupees. Last year, it was 2.75 trillion rupees. The rise is largely because of the rise in the price of gold, but RBI has also bought more gold. It has bought 54 tons of more gold. So its total gold holding goes up by 7% to 879 tons. But this is not the highest. It's higher than last year. If you go to FY24, its total, it bought 28 tons of gold. FY23, it bought 34 tons, which is 4.6% higher. But FY22, it had bought a lot more gold, about 65 tons. And its gold holding went up by 9.3%. But still, 7% rise in gold is a 3-year high. The other point to note is the way in which the RBI balance sheet has been treated. If you remember, about a couple of weeks back, the RBI board met and said that they're raising the contingency reserve from earlier 5.5 to 6.5 to 4.5 to 7.5. They expanded it. Now, if the RBI has kept 7.5% of its total liabilities as reserves. If it had kept it at 6.5, that is the old number, then the total surplus to the government would have been 3.6 trillion rupees. But they have actually given only 2.7 trillion rupees because they had to put in additional 76,000 crores in the reserves because of the rise in the percentage. And this could be just, smoothing out dividend so that they can pay more next year. But that's the important part, that they have reduced the potential surplus by increasing the reserve percentage. The other major point from the annual report is what they look at in terms of the economy. The global economy obviously is going to be the pain point. They are pointing to slower disinflation. Now, that is new. Until now, global economy was giving us disinflation, but RBI believes that this disinflation process will slow down. Maybe a little bit of inflation from the global economy. The high public debt, because all countries are indebted, geopolitical and trade tensions. These are the headwinds. Positive is the domestic economy, very resilient, growing consumption, continued capex push, strong balance sheets of banks and of corporates, liquidity higher, so easy financial conditions, and resilient. The services sector being resilient makes for a strong economy. The other important point they point out, because of good monsoons, chances of inflation remaining under 4% are a given. That's basically what you're getting from the Reserve Bank. Number of fraud cases have fallen, but the amount of fraud, amount of money involved in fraud cases actually risen, almost doubled to 36,000 crores. It was about 18,000 crores last year. Those are the key takeaways from the annual report.
Okay, Lata, thank you so much for that. Interesting highlights coming in from the RBI's annual report. Let's move on. And the SEBI has actually passed an interim order in the high-profile insider trading case involving key managerial personnel of Indices Bank, including the bank's former CEO and other senior executives. The regulator has barred 5 individuals from buying or selling securities and has frozen their bank accounts. Ritu is joining in with us to give us more details on this one. Ritu, over to you.
That's right, SEBI has passed an interim order against 5 senior executives, including former CEO Sumant Katpalia and former Deputy CEO Arun Khurana of Indices Bank, in an insider trading case where the regulator found that these individuals had sold shares of the bank while in possession of unpublished price-sensitive information, avoiding losses of nearly 20 crore rupees. Now, in the interim order, SEBI has frozen their bank and demat accounts to the extent of the losses avoided, barred them from trading in securities until further notice, and directed them to submit a full inventory of their assets. Now, together, SEBI says they avoided losses of 19.78 crore rupees, out of which 14.4 crores was by Arun Khurana alone and 5.2 crores by Sumant Katpalia. The others who have been named are Sushant Saurav, the head of Treasury Operations of the bank, Rohan Jatanna, the Senior Vice President of Global Markets, and Anil Rao, the Chief Administrative Officer, who notably is also part of the 2-member executive committee currently overseeing the operations of the bank in the absence of a CEO. Now, SEBI's investigation showed that senior management was aware of the discrepancies a good 15 months before they made the exchange disclosure, and not only their internal team, even external auditor KPMG had flagged the impact long before. Sumant Katpalia alone sold 1.25 lakh shares of Indices, while Arun Khurana offloaded about 3.5 lakh shares without making a single new share purchase in the period between December of 2023, when the management first found out about the discrepancies, and March of 2025, when the information was made public. Now, beyond the 5 executives named, SEBI is also investigating other suspects that it did not name. Questions are already swirling around the board's oversight and the auditor's role. And importantly, Anil Rao, who's part of the 2-member executive committee running the bank, is also named in this order, so we will probably see the committee getting revamped as well. Now, with the CEO and Deputy CEO already out, the story, of course, is far from over, and more heads may roll if insider trading charges stick.
Okay, Ritu, thank you so much for that. But let's move on the MSEI index rejig. Those changes will come into effect from tomorrow, 30th of May. Vivek is here to tell us what are the changes that we're expecting this time. Afternoon, Vivek.
Good afternoon. Well, MSEI earlier, this month had gone ahead and informed about the kind of changes that they would be making as part of the index review. Remember, 2 entries from India as far as this particular May index review is concerned. Coromandel and Nykaa will enter the MSCI Global Standard Index. So Coromandel tomorrow will see flows of close to $227 million, while Nykaa will see flows of a little over $180 million. These flows are as per IIFL capital estimates. But the more important news flow will be the fact that MSCI, like FTSE, has taken cognizance of the fact that the foreign ownership limit in Eternal, earlier known as Zomato, has now dropped to 49.5%. So MSEI has said that they would be reducing the weightage of Eternal in the MSCI standard indexes, and tomorrow is when that particular outflows too will be seen. Eternal is likely to see outflows in the range of $460 to $480 million in tomorrow's trading session. So that too continues to remain as a slight overhang as far as the stock of Eternal is concerned.
Okay, Vivek, thank you so much for that. We'll keep an eye out on all those names in tomorrow's trading session as well. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. And before we slip into the break, we are excited to unveil our brand new global business news channel, the all-new CNBC-TV18 Prime, bringing you insights from policymakers, business leaders, and economists shaping both the world and India's future. CNBC-TV18 Prime decodes global shifts and their impact on Indian businesses, giving you unparalleled insights. Tune in to CNBC-TV18 Prime at 12 noon for the Global Reset and Global Lens at 8:30 p.m.
People talk about the Flipkart mafia and all the startups that came about. I think
You're part of the mafia.
I think it's the startup university.
Still are.
Equal number of good decisions and bad decisions.
Yeah.
But the fact is that looking back, vision is always 2020. And I think we have that advantage building PhonePe after having seen the Flipkart journey.
I want to have the ability to look somebody in the eye and say that I have a clear path to profitability before I can say that I will IPO.
I think the business is in a good place, the org is in a good place, the sector is in a good place. If you're a market leader in a growth sector, I think it's a good time.
Who's the maverick and who's the goose, since we're talking about the
he's
wing?
the maverick.
He's the maverick.
You're both pointing at each other.
I think we have more conversations with each other than our wives.
You've known each other longer than you've known your wives, so it makes
That is true.
kind of makes sense.
That is true.
Welcome back to Business Lunch on CNBC TV18. Now let's move on, and in a massive development which will have global ramifications, a US court has blocked President Donald Trump's tariffs. Here is what you need to know.
A U.S. federal trade court has blocked President Donald Trump's Liberation Day tariffs from going into effect. Wednesday's ruling from the Manhattan-based Court of International Trade said the president had overreached his authority. The court said Congress is empowered by the Constitution to regulate international commerce, and the president's use of emergency powers does not override that power. The Trump administration appealed the ruling within minutes. Trump had claimed broad authority in order to impose his tariffs in April. He cited an emergency powers law, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, to set 10% duties on all imports. Countries with the highest U.S. trade deficits saw even higher rates, particularly China. The law has historically been used for sanctions against Washington's enemies, but Trump is the first U.S. president to use it to impose tariffs, as he had argued the trade deficit was a national emergency. A 3-judge panel disagreed in Wednesday's ruling, saying, "The court does not pass upon the wisdom or likely effectiveness of the president's use of tariffs as leverage. That use is impermissible not because it is unwise or ineffective, but because federal law does not allow it." That ruling came after a pair of lawsuits. One was filed by the nonpartisan Liberty Justice Center on behalf of 5 small U.S. businesses. They ranged from a wine and spirits importer to a maker of musical instruments, all importing goods targeted by tariffs. The other lawsuit was brought by the Democratic Attorneys General of 13 U.S. states. The White House and lawyers for groups that sued did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Stephen Miller, a White House Deputy Chief of Staff and leading Trump advisor, said in a brief social media post, quote, "The judicial coup is out of control." Trump has said his tariffs are intended to restore U.S. manufacturing, but suspending, delaying, or raising them since his tariff decisions have sent shockwaves and uncertainty through financial markets. At least 5 other legal challenges to the tariffs are pending.
And taco seems to be the buzzword among international press, but Trump remains firm and clarifies he is not chickening out on trade. Listen in.
And then I chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country. And because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, OK, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation.
And earlier today, we also spoke to Ed Yardeni, president of Yardeni Research, as well as Arvind Sanger, managing partner at Geosphere Capital Management, to discuss U.S. trade court order. Listen into what they had to say on this front.
It's a very messy situation for sure. Why would any country now want to proceed with negotiating with the administration when the court just questioned whether the tariffs have any constitutional right to exist in the first place? But I think everybody knows that there's no way that you can negotiate a trade treaty in 90 days. I think we're still going to get some letters of agreement between us and our major trading partners on continuing to negotiate fair trade deals. So I think there'll be a lot of face saving going on, and I think the president is basically going to declare victory and try to put this whole thing behind him by the middle to the end of the summer.
A lot of the court cases that have gone against Trump have been local jurisdictions putting national claim, and there is a case in front of the Supreme Court claiming that these local courts shouldn't have jurisdiction to stop anything nationally. This is the International Trade Court. There is no claim that they don't have jurisdiction on trade. Now, it's not a jurisdiction question, which Trump is arguing against the Supreme Court on other cases. This is really a question of whether the court ruled incorrectly or not, and that's going to be a harder case to overturn because these guys are specialists on international trade law. Doesn't mean it can't be overturned, but I think that it looks to me like this is going to be, again, I'm no legal expert, but it looks like just from the logic standpoint, it seems like what they said makes complete logical sense, and it's going to be a tough one for Trump to overturn.
Okay, on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break, and here's some good news coming in for our viewers. India's business news leader is now a click away. Introducing CNBC-TV18's all-new app. Get instant access to breaking news, in-depth articles and financial world updates at your fingertips. Download the CNBC-TV18 app now from the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, or you can just scan the QR code on your screens. Welcome back to Business Lunch on CNBC TV18. Now, staying with the U.S., Marco Rubio, U.S. Secretary of State, has announced that Trump administration will work aggressively to revoke visas for Chinese students. The visas will be cancelled for those students who have connections to the Chinese Communist Party or are enrolled in the critical fields. Rubio also said that the U.S. State Department is revising the visa criteria to enhance scrutiny of all future applicants from China and Hong Kong. Here is what the U.S. President Donald Trump had to say on this front.
We want to know where those students come. Are they troublemakers? What countries do they come? And we're not going to, if somebody is coming from a certain country and they're 100% fine, which I hope most of them are, but many of them won't be, you're going to see some very radical people. They're taking people from areas of the world that are very radicalized, and we don't want them making trouble in our country. These countries aren't helping us. They're not investing in Harvard and all of our, we are. So why would 31%? Why would a number so big? I think, number one, I think they should have a cap of maybe around 15%, not 31%. We have people who want to go to Harvard and other schools. They can't get in because we have foreign students there. But I want to make sure that the foreign students are people that can love our country. We don't want to see shopping centers exploding. We don't want to see the kind of riots that you had. And I'll tell you what, many of those students didn't go anywhere. Many of those students were troublemakers.
And another development within the Trump administration, billionaire Elon Musk has quit the administration months after he joined the newly created Department of Government Efficiency in a bid to cut huge U.S. deficit. Watch the next report.
Elon Musk is leaving his role in government. A White House official confirmed the move late Wednesday, saying the billionaire's offboarding would begin the same night. The exit caps a tumultuous period since U.S. President Donald Trump returned to power, vowing to give Musk a big job.
And to that end, I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it, perhaps. Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight.
Musk set out to slash government spending, saying in March he could cut at least $1 trillion off federal expenditures.
If we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt.
But DOGE attracted huge controversy, with critics saying it was making indiscriminate cuts that threatened vital services without even delivering the promised savings. Many were also angered by the resulting wave of job losses, with some 260,000 roles cut from the federal workforce. The controversy may also have done deep harm to some of Musk's businesses. Tesla sales have slumped in some markets, notably Europe, amid anger over his embrace of far-right politics in some countries. Some investors have also been concerned that Musk simply had too many roles and wasn't spending enough time at his various firms.
You know, they say I wear a lot of hats. It's true. Even my hat has a hat.
Among the worries Musk faces are an aging model lineup at Tesla and a series of failed launches at rocket company SpaceX. Now he says he'll devote himself to business again and says his firms will be revived with world-changing products, including humanoid robots and robotaxis. Signs of a possible rift with Trump had been apparent in recent days. On Tuesday, Musk criticized the president's big tax bill, saying it was too expensive and undermined DOGE's efforts to trim the budget deficit. However, in a post on X, Musk thanked Trump for his time in government. He said the DOGE mission would continue and only strengthen over time.
And with that, we're absolutely out of time on this edition of Business Lunch, leaving the Nifty at where we started the show with. But don't go anywhere. You have Midcap Radar up next, which will take you through more market actions after this break.